Old school is back. I love it. 1976 BMW 2002. Now this is the end of the 2002 model.
This car feels old. You kind of have to jiggle the ignition a little bit, give it some gas. I mean, all those things that are irrelevant on modern cars, and that's the beauty. But it's fun to drive the bones, the originator of where the 3 Series came, because after this, it was the 320i.
The 2002 is the beginning of what gives BMW its reputation in America. Back in the late 60s, David E. Davis Jr. made a name for himself and started a whole world of almost irreverent automotive journalism by writing kind of a love letter to this car for the magazine he worked for at the time. This began a complete rethink of what it means to have a driver's sedan.
They did make over 400,000 of these cars. Of course, the rare ones are the TIIs, the turbo, but most of the cars that were built was this. 100 horsepower, okay. This owner is the 8th owner of this car, so people have done stuff, but this is not restored. This is just added to over the years. Okay, describe the car. Describe it to somebody, how it looks. Boxiness would come out a lot, but I'm fascinated with the clamshell hood here and things just laying over the top of each other. The hood kind of sits on this car. So does the trunk.
One of the very striking things when you first climb in here is how vertical your seating position is. You're sitting very upright. Of course, the A-pillars are almost paper thin. This is a real fishbowl all around you. You can see everything you could ever want. These seats are very vertical, but decently comfortable. You could actually get 4 people in here. It's going to be tight, but for the size of the car, it's kind of surprising how much room is here.
I love the size of this thing. I love the visibility. Oh man, floor hinge pedals.
It's all analog. There's no power steering, there's no air conditioning, there's no stereo.
You could go nuts spending money on this car. There's always things you could do, but I don't know that these are cars that you want to go overboard.
This has replacement carburetors on it. It actually accelerates pretty well. This is a 4-speed gearbox. Everything has been nicely refined. This owner has spent some time and a little bit of money trying to make this car run like it should. He bought it, drove it home, and it stopped working.
The problem is, these cars don't like to sit. They need to be driven. Okay, the throttle's almost flat and up a slight grade. It has trouble. That's okay. I'm fine with it.
Originally, this was about 100 horsepower, about 100 pound-feet of torque. This one has been a little bit revised. It might pull 115 on a good day. You kind of need a road like this with one of these cars. You need a road that has some great corners, some blind corners, but isn't a road asking you to go all that fast, because this car just can't really.
I'm feathering the throttle downhill here. I'm doing a lot of engine braking, which means at the top end, the engine starts to smoke. I thought it was a campfire in the forest, but no, it's the O2. Oh, the brakes are really spongy and soft and don't feel like they slow the car down at all when you push on them. There's some brakes.
When I first got in this, I started kind of tossing it down a road through the aspens, and I discovered it was much more chuckable and much more fun than I expected. But you are working hard because there's no power steering here, and so even though this is a car that weighs just over 2,000 pounds, if you really want to throw it in, it's not like it has a lightning fast steering rack. It's going to take a little bit of work.
There's no jumping and bouncing and wiggling around like a lot of unassisted steering does. Not on this car. I could feel the sidewalls curl under on the tires. But the steering gave me all kinds of feedback. I knew where I was on the corner. I knew what the car was doing, probably better than most.
Look at this little thing, just chucking it down this road. I love it. Look at that. We're almost getting slidey back here. This is fun. When you drive a 2002, you quickly see why the people that love them are kind of zealots. This definitely feels old, but it is surprisingly chuckable. The steering is not quick. and with no power, you have to really manhandle it. But there is something kind of fun and engaging about that just makes me want to chuck this down a back road.
And yeah, there's body roll. Yeah, everything leans. The seats are not supportive. It's just a fun to drive car. And of course, the wheels are tiny. 14-inch wheels that are the upgrade from the 13s, which means the wheels are now the size of modern brakes.
Originally, these were 13s with a 165 width tire. Now they are these big boys at 14-inch rims with a 195 tire. Still almost grocery cart width, but quite a bit better than it was stock.
See, direct. I'm feeling the road, I'm feeling everything mechanical. I can feel the tires, and it just makes me want to go faster.
Come on, old girl, come on, you got it. Look at that, and we accelerate out. Look at that! You can't deny good setup. It just exists. Once you've done it right, it lingers. I love it.
She's an old car. She needs to be treated with some respect and some care. But there's a lot left for future owners. And not that you have to restore these cars perfectly just to get the goodness out of them, but I know it will continue. I think there's really only one thing about this car that you need to know about, and it's the steering. It comes back to BMW's lineage. The sedan, the thing that does it all and still is fun to drive. The car that we would have recommended most on the podcast, most often, if we were around in the 60s and 70s doing this. It would have been the O2. This is all you need to know, is just the steering.
It's not overly quick, and you have to work at it, but it is fun. A little bit of smoke, just to let me know. By the way, be careful, I'm old.
Love this car, but yet I don't want to rush out and go buy one. And it's because you have to build a relationship with this thing. You've got to coddle it and baby it and work on it, and it's going to consume your time. And at this point in my life, I don't have the time. If that's you, I couldn't recommend the O2 more.
I'm not a guy that seeks out classic cars, really wants to buy classic cars. But if I were building a garage of grades, I think this would be in it. These are the kind of classic cars I like. I'm not really into the 70s muscle cars. It's not really my thing. They just feel a little big for me. This feels related to all the little modern cars I like. At 2,000 pounds and tiny. I don't know that I'd want to own one of these, but it is a blast to drive.
I think that's the thing. Just know somebody that owns an O2 and will let you go for a drive. You know, every so often.